Hello and welcome back to Much Ado About Rugby, where we chat about everything rugby. Today I am back with my good friend Maliki for another cheeky round review of the weekend's Test match rugby and also chatting a bit about the new Premiership games that are happening, obviously. But before we go into all the analysis, shall we say, we should probably mention our socials. So we have Instagram, tag at Much Ado About Rugby. We're on Facebook. And you can also find the podcast available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Anchor, if you know what that is, and also YouTube, obviously, if you want to look at our beautiful faces. A lot of you don't want to do that, apparently, but that's fine. Anyway, without further ado, we'll move straight into the key match of the weekend, especially for us England fans. England-Wales, which happened yesterday at the time of recording. We had a very, very, Mal, how would you describe the match? Would you describe it as close or?
I don't know. It was a bit of a weird one because I don't know. I was kind of worried the whole game. I don't know if you could tell on the chat. To be fair, I did say I'm worried quite a few times, but especially when we conceded that try early on, I was like, "What is going on?" Like passes weren't going to hand, like all that kind of stuff. Like I just didn't feel like we had that normal flow that we usually have when we're playing at our best, and I feel it was quite a close competition. So yeah, I don't know, I wasn't convinced by England's performance, but I'm just happy that we did get the win because I really don't like losing to Wales. Really, probably the team I'd least like to lose to be honest.
Yeah, I think England misfired a bit, but I think I wasn't necessarily worried like you were. I guess I was just more like. I guess I was just more like, come on, let's just score a couple more tries. I mean, we only got two in the end. It was Slady and Makavinapola trundling over. But all the statistics, if you look at them in a bit more detail, they are all massively in favour of England. Like England had double the amount of meters made than Wales. They had, 2/3 possession, 2/3 territory. All of these statistics show that England should have really made the scoreline a lot larger than it was, which ended up 24-13. And I just think it was that, clinical nature that we often see with England, where they can just execute. If they have a line out 5 meters out, they will score, which is what we're used to saying. But we just didn't see that from this England team. Despite that, I thought that the likes of Sam Underhill, who did get man of the match, had an absolutely outrageously good game. Seriously good tackling again from him, like we're used to seeing. Anyone else that stood out for you?
To be honest, not a lot. To be honest, because I think it's hard. It was hard to pick a player out really when no one seemed to be playing amazingly well. Like as a team, it formed, got the job done, but no one really stood out to me. Obviously, Sam Underhill, he'd been in good form, really good form. Like against Ireland, I think his tackling is just so good. Like he just smashes people back the whole time, and I don't know why. I think in the Ireland game, his dominant tackle rate was like 60% or something like that, which is stupid. But I don't know what it was for this game. But yeah, he was really good. But I don't know. I just thought the whole game, like we were playing a bit of a different game plan. I think this is obviously something that Eddie's trying to get, that where we can adapt our game to the opponent to be able to finish the job, like no matter what kind of play style it is. And I think we definitely saw a more territorial, more territorial approach to the game today, where like any opportunity had, we seemed to just kick it through. I wasn't overly convinced by George Ford today. I think I liked having Ford, Slady, and Lawrence as the 10 and the centres, but I mean, we got the job done. I guess it must have been part of Eddie's plan to maybe have a bit more creative for the kicking. Having obviously Slady's really good at kicking as well. So yeah, I don't know. No one massively stood out for me for the England team other than Underhill as well. But it was good to see. It was funny. I did find it funny when what's his name? who got injured? Someone got injured. Oh, Daly got that ankle thing that, and Burl thought he was going to come on. Um, and
At
like,
fullback.
yeah, he was like getting gas. So yeah, that would actually been quite sick. I don't know how they would have worked that. They must.
I think Slady would have gone to 15 surely, and
Yeah,
Bell would have gone into the Bernard would have gone into the centres probably.
yeah,
That would have certainly been interesting to finally see him make one of those random moves that we know, like Ollie Thorley at flanker or Jack Noel at flanker or Ben Earl in the
yeah.
centres.
Oh, I do.
Wants to make every player play in every position apparently. So
Yeah, he just wants like so many versatility players, like play or whatever. Is it versatility, utility? Yeah, he just wants
yeah,
so many players like that because obviously he's running the 6-2 with the finishers. So he's got the 6 forwards rather, and then only 2 backs. I don't even know who our 2 back subs were. Willie Hines. Oh no, Dan Rob.
no, it's Dan Robson and Anthony Watson.
Oh yeah, which is quite good. What did you make of Watson? Because he hasn't really been playing that
Um,
recently for England.
I don't know. I thought I didn't have loads of time and space to do what we know he can
Mm,
with his gas, but I think he did all right. You know, under the high ball a couple of times was okay. Um, did get to show a tiny bit of gas in places when he got the ball from deep, but obviously just not being given the opportunity really in a game like that where it's just kick, kick, kick.
yeah,
Um,
I'll get out to the wings at
also
that point.
just to comment on Wales, everyone's gassed for Louis Zamet.
The
I
comment,
didn't really get it. Like, yeah, he looked
yeah,
dangerous, but comparing him to Shane Williams, this guy's played like 2 matches for Wales and scored 1 try. Um, and we know what he could do in the Premiership and stuff. He's just pure out and out gas, and he's
yeah,
definitely a good player. But I think we just need to calm down a little bit on the whole Louis Zamet thing because he's not necessarily proved himself in yesterday's game. I don't think as yet.
yeah.
Um,
No, I think he had a good break. Like I think he had a good couple breaks where he was kind of forced to the touchline. He had to kick, which is like obviously the right decision to make. But I just don't. He as you say, he is just a bit of gas. I don't think he's like Johnny May who can make a break out of nothing. I think that is the difference because they're both obviously like really quick players, but Johnny May obviously like as shown last weekend didn't really get much of, and I didn't know if he got the ball this weekend, but Johnny May can make something out of nothing. You can see in the game he's always trying to do those steps where he's trying to get someone off balance and make a break and then just accelerate through the gap. But whereas Zamet is a bit more, he needs a bit more of the space at the moment, um, which maybe Wales could try adapt their play style to utilize that a bit more because obviously there was the one where he nearly got past Watson. He had
mm,
to kick it, and he probably would have chased that at least down decently well if Watson hadn't got in. I think he got like a tap tackle that brought him down. So that was a really good defense by Watson, to be fair. But yeah, I think commentators just absolutely love him. Like they actually like
yeah. Well, to be fair, we all like. If I was Welsh, I would want to see that guy on the ball more because he did look fairly dangerous. But I think comparing him to Shane Williams,
yeah,
maybe a bit early for that. It's like almost comparing any New Zealand winger like Caleb Clark to Jonah Lomu, which you just
yeah.
wouldn't do. Like actually great players for both teams,
Mm,
and certainly showing themselves a little bit, but not quite up to that standard yet. I don't think. Give him
yeah.
time. Give him time.
I think it
Um,
does show something a bit about Wales how he is one of their standout players already.
yeah, I think they do. They have tried to blood a few new players. You got the likes of their flankers James Botham and Shane Lewis Hughes, who
Mm,
I actually had never heard of before today's game or
yeah,
yesterday's game. Sorry, I don't know. They didn't really look dangerous. They're no Curry and Underhill, are they? But not
mate.
bad.
England have the best flanker depth in the world.
I mean, you saw who came off the bench. You know, you got Ben Earl and Jack Willis coming off the bench, who were both in outrageous form for club. And yeah, Jack Willis came on, made a really good jackling steal like he did against Georgia and like he's been doing the whole way through the Premiership. So I just think who was Wales's subs? Aaron Wainwright and Will Rowlands. I mean, it's not exactly game changing, is it?
Yeah.
And I think Lloyd Williams at scrum half wasn't amazing.
Mm.
The centres. This is the problem that Wales have. I think previously, you think of their centres, they've always had that bulldozing 12, whether it's Jamie Roberts or Hadley Parks, and then outside they'd have Jonathan Davis, who is a world-class outside centre. Now in this game, they have Nick Tompkins and Johnny Williams. Now these two were just nowhere to be seen the whole game. Didn't like if halfway through the game, I think one of the commentators mentioned Nick Tompkins and how dangerous he was, and I was like, I haven't seen Nick Tompkins the whole of this game. Has he touched the ball? Has he done anything?
Yeah, I just
So,
don't do
I
anything.
mean, I think it's really about considering what was your statistic? What was your fact about Johnny Williams, Mal?
Oh,
Didn't he play for England? Yeah.
yeah, he actually played for England in a game against the Barbars last year and actually scored. So I think, yeah, I was saying this to you earlier, and you said how the fact that he's playing against England for the Barbar against Barbars for England means he's probably not going to be up there as a top choice at England. But the fact that he's making the starting team for Wales shows something. But I think you also have to remember they have got, I think they have 7 injuries or something. Wales do, like
Yeah.
a lot of their like best players are out. Like they've got no Liam Williams.
No. Well, where's Tipperick?
Yeah,
But what do we make of Alan Wynne Jones and all that? What do you think of his performance yesterday?
nothing on Atoji. Mate,
Nothing on Itoje. I'll
no.
tell you who else actually. So Itoje is really good, as we all know, and he always plays well. And
Launch,
Underhill had a really good game. Launchbury,
mate,
he
he's
he
just
actually just
uh,
does the groundwork and does it really well, and also has really nice subtle hands.
yeah.
Can carry well.
He's
He's
so
just a
useful.
really really solid player. And I did see a post this morning on the Good, the Bad, and the Rugby Facebook group saying how underrated he is basically, and how he should definitely be up and around there for the Lions. We talk about Itoje and James Ryan. As far as I'm concerned, James Ryan and Ireland's form doesn't really credit any or deserve any credit at the moment. They haven't
Yeah,
really been performing.
I think we'll get
But
see
Joe Launchbury's
how they
part
play
of a
this week.
winning side. He's got that winning mentality, and he
Yeah,
just does everything really well as a good line-out operator. So
yeah. I think with Launchbury, he was obviously out of favour for starting spot for a while. I think he's obviously it's like how it is. Like sometimes you get an injury and you make your break. Obviously, to make his break back into the team, like no Courtney Laws, and then obviously having an outstanding season with Wasps. I think really is it shining the spotlight on him a bit more, especially now. And now he's been back in England. Is really good to see him, and he's actually really bloody useful. Like it's good to have like him as more. I don't know. I don't even know how you describe him. It's just like he's just good. Like he balances with Atoje really well in the lock partnership. And yeah, I would like. I'm
he
definitely keen for him to stay in there, even with court, because I think we don't need any more big hitters. Really, like big, like Courtney Laws. We don't need a big hitting lock in there when we have Underhill, Curry, Itoje, like all those guys doing that. We need. It's good to have some variation in the pack as well.
exactly. And I think Joe Launchbury just he doesn't need to shout and like make himself heard like a Toje does. He just does everything really well. And I think his teammates, I know I appreciated people like that who did their work quietly and just but did it really well and focused on getting their job done for the team. Whereas like I guess Courtney Laws does kind of do that. He's not as loud as a Toje, but it's anyone as loud as a Toje. But it does bring a nice balance to that second row and the England pack. But anyway, that match ended 24-13. A little bit disappointing that we didn't see England score more tries. But at the end of the day, a win's a win, and Wales can go and cry about it. So that's fine. moving swiftly on then to the game that was on before that game, the France versus Italy game. So this game was essentially, well, we all knew what the result was going to be, and it ended up that way. France played an out-and-out second team and won 36 points to 5 against a basically full-strength Italian side. Obviously, I didn't watch the match. I was at work, but
I
yeah,
watched the game.
just looking at the French team. There is only one person who I would say is a starting. If they were playing England next weekend, there's only one person in that team that I would say would most likely start
In a
in the
full
game
fitness
against England.
team. In a full fitness
In a
team.
yeah, exactly, and that is Teddy Thomas.
Mm.
Um, which just shows you maybe some of the depth that France have, and they beat this Italian side by 30 points.
Yeah.
Um,
You definitely have to give credit to France that being able to do that. But I think there are definitely some players who look good. Like I really like Matthew Jalibert. I really think he's quite good as well. He's like a really good backup to Intermac. Obviously, I think Intermac is the
mm,
starting one, but I can't even remember. Can't remember what team he actually plays for. Is it like Bordeaux maybe or something? But I think seeing him play for France these last couple of games and in the Challenge Cup, I think it was Bordeaux he plays for or something. One of the French teams, but he played in the Challenge Cup. I thought he was really good there. So I think it's good that he's getting a chance to play in the in the Autumn Nations Cup. But yeah, no, I think with the when you're playing Italy and you know you're probably going to win, it's worth resting some players when you're going to be playing England, who are obviously the biggest contesters for France in this competition, and you don't want to get any big injuries to to Pont or any of the
yeah,
guys. So I think it was definitely the right decision for France to do, and they obviously were confident with that decision. But I do feel a bit bad for Italy because I just think they have been looking better. Like every week, they have actually been looking decent. Like even playing against like a second string French team, they still like got. I think they got a try or two. I can't remember the score.
they got one try, and it was actually quite a nice try. I think it was Carlo Cano went over in the corner,
Mm.
but it was like the first points of the game basically.
Yeah.
Um, and it always just seems that, I mean, we look at when the tries were scored. Let's just have a look. Um, I can't find it. No worries. Uh, but yeah, they were all scored kind of after the 20-minute mark. You know, Italy basically held off and managed to stay in the game for a relatively long amount of time. But then France, like Italy always seem to do, they just crumbled in the second half. And actually, Italy were attacking, or at least made less tackles than France. So that means that they had the ball. They had 50% possession for 52% possession. So it's just, what can Italy do to turn that possession, which is fairly even, into more points? And you got to point, is it maybe a lacking in attack, or is it also, or is it a pure lacking in defense because they're conceding so many tries? You
Mm.
know,
It
five
could be a
tries.
fitness thing, to be honest, because if they're able to keep that, again with this game, I think it was very close. I don't know if it was like 10 something maybe at half time. I'm not 100% sure, but it was very close again at half time. And then, yeah, they just drop off in the second half. Maybe they just get demotivated at half time. Maybe, I don't know who their manager is or the coach or whatever. I don't know if he's just not really spurring them on at half time, or if they're just running out of fitness, like they're getting knackered, and then obviously their defensive ability is massively dropping off, which is just laying a team like France, who obviously are very skillful, to just do what they need to do and run in the tries around them. That I think that could be potentially a big factor in it, but
Mm.
I think they're looking promising, and if they can just fix this issue of being consistent throughout the game, which is obviously I think a big factor for a lot of teams as well. But I think especially Italy, like they're really not that bad. I think they're definitely better than they were like a year or two ago. They were getting it was like they were going to get thumped. Like there was no chance for them really to even get anything on the board at all, or like they were just
But
going to
now you think Italy are going to score one or two nice tries,
it'll be
but
a
then
bit of
they're
a
still going to
contest.
use.
Like
But you know, I just think one try a game against a tier one nation isn't really cutting it. It's like, I look at their bench and I think this is probably why they're not performing as well as they could, because the only two people I know from their bench are Leonardo Girialdini, um, and Tommaso Allen, who are obviously staples in that Italian side and have been for the last few years. Very experienced players, but
was there
I
was
don't
there
under.
Guy Varney on the bench as well?
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Who's
think
he? Is he Welsh?
no, yeah, he's a young guy who plays for Gloucester. I think he was at Hartpury College with Pellegrini and Louis Samet. So he's all part of the. I think they all had that young. They've got a lot of young players coming in from
Yeah.
Hartpury to the Gloucester team, and obviously there's a few of them who must have Italian heritage, like Pellegrini,
Mm.
and stuff.
Pellegrini wasn't playing actually.
Yeah, I think he must have got injured from the weekend before, which is disappointing.
Possibly, yeah, possibly. Oh well, poor Italy. 36-5, the end result in that against France. Very impressive France second team performance. Um, I just dread to think what would happen if they did play in Tamac and Dupont and managed to probably score a few more tries if that was the case. Next game, New Zealand versus Argentina. Now, a few weeks back, we had the very exciting, obviously, event of this match before, and Argentina actually won it, obviously 25-15. Now, basically, the same two teams went out to play yesterday morning, as it was in the UK. And unfortunately, we weren't able to watch it, but we did watch 2 Cents Rugby, the YouTuber who reviews and previews rugby games. We managed to watch his live stream of his commentary on it, so we did get an idea for what was going on in the game. Now, very, very different to the match that we saw a few weeks ago. This match ended up 38-0 to New Zealand. So, Matt, what were your initial thoughts on this one?
I mean, don't know. Argentina, like obviously, if they, I don't know how it can swing so much. Like I don't know if Argentina just didn't really change their game plan much, and New Zealand just took that and just analyzed it and worked out all their weaknesses, where they were bad on the day, and obviously took advantage of that to put on the points. I'm not sure what the score was at halftime. I think it was fairly close again, and then they just New Zealand just brought on their
I think it
finishes.
was 10-0.
Yeah, 10-0 at halftime. And I think this is potentially quite a common theme at international rugby, is having depth as in your finishes, because if you're bringing on really high quality players where the difference between your starting team and your team at the end is not that big a difference in quality, then you're going to be, and especially in comparison to another team who may be bringing on not the best players, then that's really where you can take advantage and exploit the other team's weaknesses. And I think that was obviously shown by Will Jordan getting 2 tries. I think they were both kind of poachers tries, you could say, but it was still really good effort by him to actually get in the position to get the ball there and then have the gas to finish it off. So I think there's nothing you can take away from him there, getting 2 tries in a big international, like is something. And I think he like that may have helped with the momentum. But yeah, I think it's similar to England. New Zealand have really good depth in their finishes, which obviously playing a team like Argentina, who have a really strong starting team but less strong in their finishes, is going to make a big difference, I feel.
Yeah, I think the same. But I do think that New Zealand initially felt the pressure really of this fixture because of the fixture before. I think they thought, look, we got to come out here and we do have to win this, and we have to win it convincingly. This can't be like a 22-21 close game, final drop goal kind of event. And we need to stamp our mark on World Rugby, because they haven't been doing that recently. They really have been, subpar for what a New Zealand team should be. So, I mean, 10-0 at half time, listening to Two Cents Rugby, who was a Kiwi, he didn't sound like he had the confidence in his All Blacks team that he would usually have in more recent years. I think he questioned having two first fives or fly halves playing on the pitch at the same time, Richie Mwanga and Bowden Barrett, because it seemed like, from my point of view, when Bowden Barrett was playing at 10, the All Blacks just were winning everything. And they questioned having, Geordie Barrett on the wing and whether he could move to fullback if Bowden moved to 10, and just all these interesting little nuances in the All Blacks team. But as far as I'm concerned, it's just a lack of clinicality that the All Blacks usually have. Okay, so we talk about England being not as clinical as usual against Wales, but over the last few games that the All Blacks have had, over the last few games, the last couple of months, they haven't been as clinical as they should be, and they either drawn or lost games that they could have easily won with the attacking platforms that they've created. Now, Argentina were defending for most of the match, which means that the All Blacks could have, and should have scored way more than 38 points in this game. I mean, they really didn't fire on all cylinders in the first half. They could have. Um, I I think Argentina defended really well at points, but obviously there were moments where it could have been just two passes out wide and they would have gone in the corner. So I think Argentina were lucky, probably, the scoreline wasn't more, and New Zealand weren't as good as they should have been. But
Yeah,
that was just my view of the game from hearing a few people talk about
yeah,
it, and obviously looking at the stats as well. So um,
yeah.
it's
No,
all,
I think it's interesting in because coming after beating the All Blacks to getting absolutely smashed. It's like I don't know. The All Blacks just don't seem very consistent. I don't know if that's like I don't know if it's down to the coach. I don't know if they made the wrong choice of putting Ian Foster there over what's the
the
Crusaders coach?
Crusaders coach. Oh, I've forgotten his name.
Something Robertson or something Robert something.
Andy, John.
I can't remember. Andy Robertson, yeah. But yeah, I don't know because obviously the power of the Crusaders being a dominant side. I don't know if maybe he should have been given a shot instead, but I don't know. It'll be interesting to see the game next week, or whenever it is, of Argentina versus Australia, because obviously both have been able to get a win over the All Blacks, but then both have also been thumped by them within within a few games. Like having that inconsistency in a team, it'll be interesting to see both of those go up against each other to see who is
Yeah.
really more dominant side at the moment. But I think
Also, was it a draw in their last outing, Argentina versus Australia?
I have no idea.
I think it was, to be honest.
When was that? Oh,
Yeah, it was on the 21st of November, 15 all. So
yeah.
I mean, look at these results. Okay, so so you've got on the 31st of October, New Zealand beat Australia 43-5. Then a week later, Australia beat New Zealand 24-22. Then New Zealand lose to Argentina 25-15. Like, how do these results? So how can you go from beating Australia by 40 points to losing two games in a row, one against Australia who you've just beaten, and then one against Argentina who hadn't played a match in in however long, and then the next week, the next time you play, you beat Argentina by 40 points. It's the most random string of results that I've ever seen. Most inconsistent results.
Yeah,
Um,
very unlike the All Blacks.
very unlike the All Blacks. You'd at least expect them. I don't really know, just to win.
Yeah, yeah,
um,
yeah. That's what you expect the All Blacks to be winning like every game. Like they are
um,
the rugby nation. So
exactly, exactly. And I think we probably would have heard about that if our guest had come on today. Um, but no worries, he was drinking, so that's fine. But yeah, I think moving on from that, very poor from Argentina really in general in that game, but also slightly, unclinicality maybe from New Zealand. Interesting. But just to finish off, I think we should have a word about the Premiership. And can I just say before we start talking about anyone else, the Exeter Chiefs are just looking like they're going to absolutely romp everyone this season.
really, how have they
Well,
been doing?
they've won 2 games by like 30 points or 40 points. Their points difference at the moment is 67 after 2 games, and they have 2 try bonus points. Um,
Maybe a factor
One
of
against Bath. Bath, who got to the semi-finals of the Premiership last season, only scored 3 points against them yesterday.
really. I don't know. You have to also remember that they're missing international players. Exeter don't have that many international players. Like they've got Johnny Hill, Slady,
Yeah, but Bath don't have that many either, do they?
Watson.
Underhill, Watson.
Is Will Stewart? Is he?
Oh yeah. To be fair, when you think about it in a bit more detail,
Bath have
it's
quite a few. Bath have got quite a few, and so that could be. I don't know. I don't know if they're. I think if they're not in the match day squad for England, I think they are allowed to play for their club, aren't they?
yeah, I think so. I think they can go back and play, but maybe maybe with the bubble rules or whatever, you're not allowed to anymore.
Oh yeah,
Um, but some more results. Bristol beat Worcester by a lot. Gloucester beat Wasps. Gloucester beat Wasps. What is this? Is this another thing where because Wasps have a few international players,
yeah,
Launchbury, the Jack Willis, they just rely on those players basically to win
yeah.
them games, and now
Not
they're getting 40 points put on them by a Gloucester team that that's a Gloucester team that is pretty much actually the Gloucester team does have quite a full backline. They don't have Cipriani, um, but not the worst Gloucester team I've ever seen. But then I
how
look,
Quinn's doing.
huh?
How Quinn's doing.
Oh yeah, mate. Quinn's doing all right actually. We lost obviously by a lot to Exeter, but that's expected. But putting nearly 50 points on Northampton yesterday, 49-29, and an absolute try fest at Franklin's Gardens. Marcus Smith having a great game. Don Brandt playing quite well. Nathan Earl playing well. He was in competition for an England shirt a few years back before an injury. Also, let's mention the newbies to the Premiership, or at least this season they are. Newcastle.
How are they?
How are they? Well, they've won 2 from 2 so far after being newly promoted. They beat Sale, the great Sale, on on the weekend on Friday evening,
Damn.
15-13. So I don't know what's going on at Newcastle, but they're certainly doing something.
Yeah.
Uh, they don't. Their team isn't even anything to write home about. I mean, they've got Luther Burrell and Toby Flood in the centres. Um, so I know Toby Flood went over in the corner for a mad final try. Mickey Young tapped it over the top like a little chip kick into the corner, bounced perfectly up for Toby Flood, the slowest player in the world. I don't understand how he's still playing wrong. Bear in mind, Toby Flood was playing 10 for England in 2007.
13 years ago. What the hell? He must be up really old now, getting on.
Yeah,
Well,
exactly.
and still
So
scoring tries.
still good to be obviously playing at such a high level. But that looks like all the matches that we've had so far this weekend. Obviously, matches that we have today, I've already mentioned. London Irish versus Leicester is the only one But it'll be interesting to see how Leicester fare. Obviously, they have a few internationals as well, George Ford and Ben Youngs. But they've got Richard Wigglesworth stepping in now, so that will be interesting. They've also got the likes of Jaco Tauta who used to play for the Stormers, coming in to the starting lineup, and so interesting to watch them play. Ben Loader, Ollie Hassel-Collins, wingers for
Ollie Hassel-Collins is
London
decent.
Irish.
He's a young guy, got decent potential. I don't know if he got a lot of tries last season.
This London Irish team is sick. What I'm just looking at it now. Look,
They still
okay,
have Naholo.
well, I think so. They might be on the bench. No, he's not playing this week. But they have Augustine Creevy, ex-Argentinian captain. Bear in mind, Sekope Kepu, who's like got the most outrageous caps for the Australian national side. Alan Dell, who's got caps for Scotland. Don't know the second rows. Sean O'Brien is their 7. Blair Cowan, like he's played for Scotland. Then they've got Paddy Jackson, who's obviously capped by Ireland. Bill Meeks, who should be playing for Scotland, who should be playing for Australia. Sorry, Curtis Rona's capped for Australia. And then you got Tom Homer, who's a staple in the Premiership, played for Bath tons of times. Ben Loader and Ollie Hassel-Collins, really young and exciting wingers. So that London Irish team is dangerous, and I don't know what they're doing to not put together some better performances.
Didn't they have Dan Norton as well?
Yeah. So he's not playing either, but
I don't know if maybe
they've got
a contract or something.
They got Nick Phipps on the bench as well.
What the hell? Actually, quite a decent squad.
Oh, that's so weird.
A lot of big names.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, do you remember that guy who played for the Hurricanes and the Stormers in Super Rugby, Cobus Van Wyk?
Yeah. He just signed. He just signed for them. I'm pretty sure.
He just signed for Leicester. Yeah.
Yeah.
So basically, anyone who's South African or Australian wants to play for Leicester and London Irish, I think.
Yeah, it's probably because it's a good team that they can actually break into. So.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyway,
exactly.
I want to get your predictions on, obviously, France versus England is the final for the first place in the Autumn Nations Cup. Who do you think is going to be the winners?
Oh, that's such a tough one. Obviously, I want England. I want England. I would love to see England. I would love to see England come out and play like they did against Ireland, but just score a couple more tries. That'd basically be the most epic performance I think I've ever seen. But I think England by about 3 or 4, maybe. England by not much. Possibly a drop goal in the final minutes. Possibly a penalty in the final minutes. I think France will just crumble under the pressure like they usually do.
Yeah, we'll have to see. I'm just thinking back to the what's it called, Dupont and Mac Tower.
Scary.
Just oh yeah, we'll just put Ollie Lawrence and Slady. They'll take them down.
Mate, Farrell, he's gonna absolutely clothesline them.
Yeah. Farrell just knock him out, just punch him in the face, legally punch him in the face, and then
legally punch them in the face, absolutely clothesline them. No, I think Farrell needs to work on his tackle technique. But yeah, what about Argentina versus Australia in the Tri-Nations?
I think it'll be Australia. I think Argentina obviously had a good run against New Zealand for that one game.
a good one win against New Zealand.
I think the Wallabies will probably take that one just because they've been playing a bit more, probably got a bit more match experience. So yeah, I think probably the Wallabies will probably take it.
Cool. All right, and that about wraps it up for this episode. Thank you so much for listening to Much Ado About Rugby. We're so sorry we were meant to have a guest on today, but fortunately he's hungover, so couldn't come on. But yeah, we hope you've enjoyed it, and obviously go and follow all our socials, which I mentioned at the beginning. All right, bye-bye, everyone. Rugby.